The air was dry and full of dust. Old spaceships lay broken under the hot twin suns. No one came here anymore, only scrappers and thieves. One of them was a young man named Cade. He wore a dark coat, heavy boots, and a scanner on his wrist. Moved carefully between the wrecks, looking for anything he could sell. Metal, wires, power cells, anything that still worked. But today, found something strange. As he stepped into the shadow of a huge fallen cruiser, he heard a sound. It was soft and weak, like a tap on glass. He stopped walking, his ears focused. Again, he heard it tap, 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 slow and steady, like someone was calling for help. Cade followed the sound. Behind a pile of metal doors and broken crates, he saw it. A large glass pod, half buried in the sand. It looked like a sleeping capsule, but different. The glass was dirty, covered in scratches. Wires stuck out from the side, sparking faintly. Then, his eyes widened inside the glass pod. There was a girl. She wasn't human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly like moonlight. Her hair floated gently inside the chamber, silver and soft. She wore a thin white suit that was torn in some places. Her hands pressed against the glass. Her eyes were open, large and bright, filled with fear. Cade stepped closer, unsure if she was real or some old hologram. She moved her lips slowly. No voice came out, but she kept trying. Then she tapped again, once, twice. 3 times she was alive. Cade's heart pounded. This pod was not new. It looked like it had been buried here. For years? Why was she still alive? How was she breathing in there? He looked at the side of the glass where a label was still clear. Specimen X14, dangerous, do not open. He stared at the warning. Dangerous? Whispered, then looked at her again. She didn't look dangerous. She looked scared, weak. Alone, her fingers slid slowly down the glass like she was losing strength. Her eyes begged him to help. He touched the surface of the glass. It was cold. Too cold. I don't know what you are, he said softly, but if someone locked you up like this, they were either very cruel or very afraid. He saw the control panel next to the pod. It was broken. Most of the system was dead, but one manual override still blinked with a faint green light. Cade hesitated. What if the warning was true? What if she heard him? Then she moved her hand slowly and pointed at Erchistat. Then to him, then to the stars. Then she mouthed a single word. Home. He felt something shift inside him. He pulled out his toolkit. It took minutes to bypass the lock. The system sparked, beeped, and hissed. The glass started to slide open with a soft groan. Cold mist escaped, swirling into the air. The girl's body fell forward, and Cade quickly caught her. She was light, too light. She coughed softly. Her body shook. Her fingers clung to his sleeve. She looked up at him and whispered again, Home. Cade took off his coat and wrapped it around her. Her body was freezing. He checked her pulse, slow but steady. She was alive but weak. Suddenly, a sharp beeping. Noise came from his scanner. Movement detected nearby. Someone was coming. Cade looked at the wreckage around him, then at the girl in his arms. If they found her, they might put her back in the cage or worse. He made a decision. He lifted her up, holding her close, and started running toward his ship. Behind him, the glass pod sparked again, and a silent alarm lit up on an old console deep underground. Somewhere far away, someone saw that alarm. Someone now knew that Specimen X14 was free. But Cade didn't know that yet. All he knew was that the girl in the glass cage had looked at him like he was her only chance. And somehow, he knew she had just changed his life forever. The girl stopped breathing for 5 seconds. Cade counted them while holding her in his arms, standing inside his quiet mountain cabin. He had carried her for 2 hours across rocky land, far from the junkyard. Now she lay on his small bed, wrapped in 2 blankets, her lips pale and her chest barely moving. He had never seen a creature like her. Not in any book, not in any records, not even in black market alien files. Her body was shaped like a human's, but her bones felt light, her skin was soft like jellyfish silk, and her silver-white hair never stayed still. It floated gently in the air, like it had a life of its own. Cade stepped back and checked the door. Locked. His ship was parked far from the cabin, hidden behind trees. No one should have followed him. Still, his hands shook. Who was she? Was she locked inside a glass pod with a danger warning? Why had no one come for her all these years? He returned to the bed. She was breathing again, very faint. He gently placed a spoon near her lips. A warm soup he had made quickly using water and salt. But she didn't move. Then her eyes opened. Not wide, but slowly. Like a flower in morning light, she blinked twice. Her lips moved. Cade leaned closer. She said nothing, only reached up and touched his forehead with 2 fingers. Instantly his mind flashed. He saw images that were not his. Flashes of her memories, a cold room, bright lights, voices shouting, metal arms cutting into her skin, screams without sound, her own hand pounding on glass. Time passing. Day, night, year, silence. And then, him. She pulled her hand back. Her fingers shook. Cade stepped away, breathing hard. His chest was tight. She had shown him her pain, without speaking, without words. Was that real? It whispered. She nodded very slowly. He couldn't understand how, but she had shared something from her mind. A memory, a piece of her soul. She trusted him. He walked to a box and pulled out one of his shirts. It was too big for her, but better than the ripped lab suit she wore. I'll turn around, he said, handing it to her. You can change. He faced the window. A long silence passed. Then he heard her weak voice. Cold, she whispered. He turned. She wore the shirt, sitting cross-legged on the bed. She held the blanket around her like a shield. Her hair still floated. Cade moved closer and gave her a small heat pack. As she held it, her eyes softened. She looked down at her hands, then to the floor. She didn't look like a killer, not like a weapon, not like anything the label had warned. But just as he thought that, the lights in the cabin flickered. His scanner beeped. Something had activated. He rushed to the device and checked the readings. A signal had been sent from inside the cabin, just a short pulse, but strong enough to reach orbit. He turned to her. Did you do that? She shook her head fast, scared. Then it came from your body. She placed a hand on her chest. Her eyes filled with fear. She didn't know what had happened either. Someone could track that signal, Cade said. He checked the windows, looked outside, then closed the curtains. The girl suddenly grabbed his hand. She pointed to her neck. There was a faint bump beneath her skin. Cade leaned in and saw it. A chip. He fetched a small medical tool and gently pressed against the spot. A blue light blinked once, then died. She gasped and fell back, shaken. The moment he disabled the chip, her skin began to glow brighter. But it was not dangerous. It was soft, calming, like she was finally breathing free. She looked at Cade and smiled, a tiny, tired smile, but the first sign of peace he had seen on her face. Then she said her first full sentence in a clear, quiet voice. You broke the cage. Cade nodded. Yes, I did. The cabin fell silent. Outside, a distant sound echoed like metal wheels grinding in the forest. It wasn't wind. Cade picked up his rifle. He looked at the girl and whispered, If they come, I'll let them take you again. She stood slowly, holding onto the bedpost for balance. This time, she didn't look like a weak prisoner. She looked like someone who had decided to fight. She screamed in her sleep. Not a loud scream, just a breathless, broken sound that made Cade drop the mug in his hand. It shattered on the cabin floor as he rushed to the bed. She was curled tightly, shaking hard, her arms wrapped around her chest. Her eyes were shut but wet, lips moving fast, like she was begging someone to stop. Her voice stuttered between 2 words. No. Again, no. Cade gently placed his hand on her shoulder. It's okay, you're safe, he said. But she didn't hear him. Then suddenly her eyes flew open, not glowing, a silver, black, empty like space itself, and her body lifted into the air. Cade stepped back, heart pounding. The blankets floated. Around her like wind had entered the room, but there was no wind. Her hair whipped in circles, her hands spread wide. The cabin lights flickered wildly. A beam of light burst from her chest, hitting the roof. Strange symbols appeared across the walls in glowing blue patterns. Alien writing. Moving fast. Cade stared, frozen. Then, as fast as it began, it stopped. She fell back on the bed like a dropped feather, breathing fast. Her eyes returned to normal. Glowing softly, her lips trembled. He walked to her slowly. What happened? What did I just see? She looked at him, afraid, but didn't pull away. She sat up slowly, pointing at her head. Memory unlocked, she whispered. Cade nodded. What? Do you remember? She touched the wooden bedpost, and suddenly it turned to sand. Cade gasped. The thick wood simply collapsed into powder under her hand. She was shocked too, her eyes wide. She hadn't meant to do that. Then she said quietly, I was changed. Cade sat beside her, listening closely. I was not born like this, she continued, her voice soft and broken. They took me. From my mother, from the mountain lights. They called me X, like a thing. Her fingers gripped the blanket tight. They tested pain, cold, heat, hunger. They filled my body with things I did not understand. I forgot my name, my home. I forgot the stars. Cade's chest felt heavy. Do you know your real name? He asked. She looked away, eyes filling again. I think it started with Shaw. That's all I remember. Cade smiled gently. Then Shaw it is. She looked at him like he had just given her something precious. But before they could speak more, a loud static sound echoed through the room. Cade's radio turned on by itself. A voice crackled from it, distorted. In another language, but one word was clear. Specimen. Cade stood, grabbed the device, and turned it off fast. Someone had locked on to her signal. Someone was listening. Maybe for hours. He looked at Shaw. We have to move. But Shaw didn't move. Her body trembled, not from fear, but something else. She gritted her teeth, clutching her stomach. It hurts, she whispered inside me. Something is burning. Cade helped her lie down again. He grabbed a scanner and hovered it above her chest. The reading was strange. Her body temperature was rising, but not like fever, more like energy. It was building up fast, like a battery overcharging. What did they put in you? He whispered. She groaned. They said they were unlocking my core to make a weapon. But I don't want to be that. She looked up at him, desperate. I don't want to break things. I don't want to be used. Cade touched her face gently. Then you won't be. Not as long as I'm here. But deep down, he knew things were changing. Shaw's powers were returning or awakening, and they were not small. She could destroy without touching. Light bent around her. Even memories could be sent through her skin, and if someone out there wanted to capture her again, they'd come fast. Cade began packing supplies. As he loaded the bag, Shaw sat up. She held a small crystal from his shelf, stared at it, then closed. Her eyes, the crystal glowed, then melted into a perfect sphere floating above. Her palm, Cade turned and saw it. He didn't speak. Shaw opened her eyes slowly. I remember. More now, she said. He waited. They said I was the last of my kind. They used my people's gifts to make machines. I saw others' children caged like me. Cade clenched his fists. And now, me asked. Shaw looked straight at him. Now I want to stop them. Asterisk, the knock was too soft, so soft that Cade almost ignored it. But then came the second knock, slow, sharp, and repeated exactly 4 times. Only people trained in government patrol units used that pattern. Cade froze in the middle of stuffing dry food into a backpack. His heart skipped. He looked at Shaw, who stood barefoot near the table, holding a floating sphere of water between her palms. She stopped, too, her silver eyes focusing on the door. Without speaking, Cade walked to the control panel and activated the security screen. Outside stood two figures. Both wore dark coats with silver badges on their shoulders, central authority. He cursed under his breath and turned back to Shah. Hide, now. She didn't ask questions. She moved quickly across the room and opened a small trapdoor beneath the rug. It led to a storage chamber beneath the cabin. He had never thought he'd use it to hide an alien girl glowing with power. Shah looked at him once before crawling. Down into the dark, Cade closed the hatch, rolled the rug back over, walked calmly to the door. He opened it just a crack. "Can I help you?" The taller officer smiled. His eyes were cold. "Evening. Routine check. Energy burst was detected in this region. Could be illegal salvage tech. We're asking all civilians to report anything strange." Cade played dumb. "Just fixing up my ship. No illegal tech here. Want to see my parts?" The second officer didn't smile. She stared past Cade's shoulder, scanning the cabin like a machine. "Mind if we step inside?" she asked. Cade hesitated. The first officer leaned in. "Won't take long. We know this place is quiet. You've always kept to yourself." He stepped aside slowly. "Come in." They entered, boots thudding softly on the wooden floor. The female officer walked straight toward the corner where Shah had been standing minutes ago. She bent down and picked up a small shard of glowing stone. It pulsed faintly in her hand. "Unusual energy signature," she said. Cade forced a laugh. "Decoration. Found it months ago in the southern ravine. Worthless." She didn't respond. Her hand slid inside her coat and pulled out a scanner. The male officer moved around the kitchen, opening drawers, inspecting the tools, the food, even sniffing the air. "You live alone, right?" he asked casually. "Always have," Cade replied. "Ever think about getting a partner? This area can be dangerous." "I like the silence." The female officer walked toward the trapdoor. Cade's body went cold. She stood there, staring at the rug. Her scanner beeped faintly. He tried to stay calm. "Just storage down there," he said. "Old tools, some water barrels." She looked at him, then she smiled. "May we look?" Before he could answer, a loud crash echoed outside the cabin. All three turned toward the sound. Cade blinked. That sound? He didn't create it, but Shah did. The distraction worked. "Something's outside," said the male officer, already moving toward the door. "I'll check the storage," the woman said. Cade stepped between her and the rug. "Let me show you. I don't want you falling through old boards down there." The woman's scanner buzzed louder, and then she paused. Her eyes widened. Just for a moment, a flash of silver light reflected in her pupils. She had seen it through the tiny cracks in the floorboards. Shah's eyes were glowing, the officer said. "Nothing." She slowly turned off her scanner. "We'll return later," she said calmly, turning to her partner. "False reading. Let's move to the next location." He frowned. "You sure?" "Yeah, I've seen enough." They stepped outside. Cade stood at the door, watching them disappear into the forest shadows. As soon as they were gone, he locked the door, bolted the windows, and yanked up the rug. Shah crawled out slowly, her face pale. "They saw me," she said, voice shaking. Double quotes, "yes," Cade whispered, but she didn't report it. Shah looked confused. "Why?" "I don't know," he said, "but maybe not everyone out there wants to hurt you." Then she said something strange. She smelled like fear. Cade blinked. "What?" "She saw me, but her fear wasn't of me. It was for me." Cade sat down beside her that night. Neither of them slept. Somewhere in the trees, secret was now alive. Someone from the enemy had seen the truth and chosen silence. But how long would that silence last? The birds were gone. Cade stepped outside before sunrise, boots crunching the frost-covered grass. The forest was too quiet. No bird calls, no wind, no rustling leaves, only silence. Something was watching. Inside the cabin, Shah was drawing again. Her fingers glided over a thin tablet Cade had given her, leaving glowing lines in the air. Symbols, shapes, patterns. Some were maps, others were blueprints, all from her memory. She had remembered where they took her. She had remembered how to find them, and now they had to leave. Cade re-entered the cabin and dropped a bag beside the table. "Pack only what matters," he said. "We move before the sky turns red." Shaw looked at him, calm but alert. "They are circling us. 4 ships. 1 above. 2 near the river. 1 in the west tree line." Cade's eyes narrowed. "How do you know?" She touched her forehead. "I can feel their scans like heat. They search for me, but something is blocking them. Maybe your roof, or maybe ... her." Cade paused. The officer Shaw nodded. "She placed something under your floor. Signal. Jammer, she bought us time." Cade felt something tighten in his chest. He didn't trust easily. But one person in uniform had taken a risk. Maybe it meant more than survival. Still, time was running out. Cade turned to the tools on the shelf. He picked up a pulse flare, emergency rations, and a cloaking sheet. He turned back to her. "We'll move through the riverbed. We'll stay under this cloak. If we're spotted, run west, not east." "Got it," but she didn't answer. She stood, still staring at the window. "They're coming now." Cade grabbed the pack, threw it on, and motioned to the door. But Shaw walked to the center of the room and raised both her arms. "Wait," she whispered. A strange hum filled the air. The air shimmered around her like heat waves. Then suddenly Cade felt weightless. He blinked, and the room was different, not physically. But something had changed. Like time had slowed down. Shaw opened her eyes and walked toward him. "I've never done this before," Shore said, "but I want to protect you." Then she touched his chest. A mark appeared on his shirt, a silver mark, shaped like a broken circle. "What is it?" he asked. "Shield," she said. "It will break once. Only once. Use it when I can't reach you." Then her knees buckled. He caught her fast. "I'm okay," she said, breathing hard, "just tired." Outside, boots hit the ground. 6 shadows moved quickly across the trees. They were here. Cade carried Shaw on his back and slipped out through the back door, moving down the steep slope behind the cabin. He stepped carefully on rocks and fallen branches heading toward the river. Behind them, the cabin lit up with a searchlight. Voices shouted. Commands barked. They found it empty. One of them scanned the ground. 2 sets of prints. 1 light they left minutes ago. The leader stepped forward, face hidden behind a mask. "Don't chase. Observe." "But sir, if she's no longer just a test subject," the leader said. "She's activated. We follow from above. Let her show us where she's going." Cade moved fast through the woods, Shaw wrapped tightly under the cloaking sheet. Every step felt heavier. Not because of the weight, but because he knew this was no longer just about hiding her. It was about ending something. They reached the riverbed, and Cade slid down first. He turned to help her only to find Shaw already standing beside him. She smiled weakly. "Your heart is loud," she said. He chuckled, trying to hide his fear. "I'm not used to being hunted by flying machines and people with guns." Shaw looked up. "They feared what I might become." Cade stared at her. "And what is that?" She looked down at her hands. "A choice." Suddenly, the river water beside them moved against the current. Cade raised his gun. But from the water, a creature appeared, small, with 6 eyes and soft blue skin. It made a chirping sound, then opened its mouth and said in perfect English, "The last starborn walks again. The queen child lives." Cade stepped back. Shaw didn't. She stepped forward. "I remember you," she said softly. "You served my mother." The creature bowed. "We have waited long." Shaw turned to Cade. "They're here. My people. Some of them survived." Cade stared at her. "What now?" Shaw touched his hand. "Now we stop running." The sky above cracked with thunder, but there were no clouds. Shaw stood on the cliff's edge, hair flowing like silver fire, her bare feet gripping the stone. Behind her, the small blue creature chirped nervously while Cade checked the power cell on his rifle. The valley below them stretched wide. filled with the thick green mist of an alien atmosphere. Earth-like, but not Earth. They had crossed into forbidden lands. Territory left untouched by war or colonists. She had brought them here for a reason. They hid something here, she whispered. A part of me. And a part of them? Cade stepped closer. What do you mean? She turned toward him, her silver eyes glowing softly. My powers were stolen, sealed inside a vault, but they couldn't control it. So they locked it here. She pointed down toward a dark hill in the center of the valley. Strange lights flickered from it like breathing metal. Cade looked through his lens. 3 military ships had landed nearby. There. Already here, he said. Shaw nodded. They want my core, not me. He lowered the rifle. But they'll take you anyway. She walked slowly toward him. I can feel them, not just their ships, their minds. The same scientists who touched my skin, who tore my name away. They're close. They remember me. Cade's jaw tightened. He had seen many cruel things in his life battles. Weapons testing, prisoners turned into objects, but Shaw had suffered. Worse. And now they were here to finish it. You still want to go down there? He asked. She raised her hand, showing the glowing mark on her palm. I have to. Suddenly the ground shook. Not from an explosion, but from something rising. The hill split open, and a circular platform began to rise slowly, surrounded by shimmering energy. A vault. Shaw's vault. From the far end of the valley, 3 shadows flew into the air, government drones, armed and scanning. Shaw closed her eyes. They're going to try and take me. Cade raised his gun. They can try. But then a voice echoed around them. A woman's voice. Calm, cold, sharp. Specimen X-14. Step away from the vault. Out. You are not permitted to interact with that technology. You are property of the Central Authority. Shaw opened her eyes slowly. I am not your property, she said. Then she stepped forward. 3 drones locked onto her body, red lasers glowing. Stop, the voice warned again. We have orders to recover you alive but not intact. Stepped between her and the drones. You'll have to shoot through me, he said. The drones waited. Then the voice said softly, so be it. All 3 drones fired at once. Cade braced for death, but the silver mark on his chest lit up. Brighter than the sun, a force field burst from it, surrounding him and Shaw in a protective bubble. The energy blast struck and disappeared, like rain on stone. The shield held, but only once. The mark dimmed. It was gone now. Shaw breathed hard. They will keep firing. I need to open the vault. She ran forward as the vault finished rising. Her hands moved across the symbols engraved on the surface. Lights flickered, and a low hum echoed through the ground behind her. Cade fired at the drones. Shooting one out of the sky, the other 2 spun back and circled wide. The voice returned. You cannot stop what is coming, girl. We will rebuild you piece by piece. You were never meant to be free. Shaw placed her hand on the center of the vault. A pulse of energy spread out. It's like a ripple on water. The vault opened. Inside was a glowing sphere of light, floating, waiting. Shaw stepped inside. The drones stopped moving. The ships froze, and Cade stared in silence. Shaw reached out, and the sphere entered her chest. She did not scream. She glowed. Her entire body lit up, and the wind exploded outward. The valley trembled. Drones burst in midair, torn apart by invisible force. The voice cut off, replaced by static, when the light faded. Shaw stood alone in the center of the vault, her hair flowing behind her like a storm cloud, her eyes brighter than stars. She stepped out, her voice steady. They wanted to control me. Now I remember who I was, and who I must become. Cade walked toward her slowly. She smiled and reached for his hand. I'm not running anymore. She floated above the ground now, not walking, floating. Her feet didn't touch the earth. Her skin pulsed with soft white light, and her silver hair moved like it was alive. The wind no longer touched her. It listened to her. Cade watched her. From the edge of the valley, rifle lowered. Breath shallow. This was not the same girl he had found in the glass cage. This was someone reborn, but still. Looked at him with the same eyes. The eyes that had once begged for help. The eyes that had whispered home. Behind her, the vault had closed again, sinking back into the earth. The soldiers who came to take her were gone. Not dead. Not harmed just ... gone. Scattered like dust in the wind, Shaw had shown mercy. Now the world was silent again. She turned to him and walked forward. Her feet touched the ground for his sake. "I can't stay hidden anymore," she said. "If I disappear again, they will do this to others. Have to stop them." Cade nodded slowly. "So this is goodbye?" Shaw looked down. "No," she said softly. "This is where we begin." Before he could ask, a low hum rose from the sky. Sleek. Ships emerged from the clouds, 5 of them, silent and smooth like silver birds. Symbols glowed on their hulls, the same symbols Shaw had drawn in the cabin. Cade stepped back, ready to raise his rifle. "They're not enemies," Shaw said. "They are my people, the last ones." The ships landed gently. Doors opened. Strange figures stepped out, tall, thin, with glowing skin like hers, but older, worn, tired. Some had scars. Some walked with canes. All of them stopped when they saw her, then they bowed. She didn't speak for a while. She just watched them, heart heavy. One of the elders stepped forward, speaking in her native tongue. Cade didn't understand, but he didn't need to. The way Shaw's eyes filled with tears said everything. "They waited for me," she whispered. All this time, Cade looked away, unsure if he still belonged in this new world of light and power. But then she turned, walked to him, and held out her hand. "I am no longer a weapon," she said, "and I am no longer lost." Cade looked at her hand, unsure. "You don't have to choose me," he said. "You have your people now, your kingdom," she smiled. "I already chose you, the day you opened my cage." He slowly reached for her hand, their fingers touched. The moment his skin met hers, the light that surrounded her dimmed just enough to include him. He felt warmth, peace, and something else, something deeper than words. She looked back at the others. "I will help rebuild what we lost," she told them. "But I won't do it alone. He walks with me." The elders looked at Cade. Some nodded. Some didn't. It didn't matter. Shaw had spoken, and her voice carried more power than any title. Later, they sat by a small fire near the cliff, watching the ships rise again. Shaw leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "I was always told home was a place," she said. "But that was wrong." Cade looked at her. "What is it then?" She closed her eyes. "A feeling, a promise, a heartbeat yours." Didn't reply. He didn't need to. They sat in silence as the stars began to shine. Unbothered by the war or the memories, the girl who was once locked in glass, forgotten by everyone, was now free, and the man who saved her no longer walked alone. Not because he found a new world, but because he had helped someone rise from darkness, and she had chosen him as her light.